all for coming. This really makes me so happy to see all of your smiling faces here. You all know who I am, I think. I'm the publisher of this crazy company, and out of pure stubbornness and persistence, somehow we made it to 10 years. I don't know. That is, of course, due to my fantastic authors. And a special shout out to Frances McNamara back there, who was my first author, who got me going to the whole thing. Couldn't have done it without her. Has cleverly written 7 books that I published, and I now have the 8th one on my desk, so that's fantastic. And I'm looking out at the Libby Fisher-Hellman back there, and Tony Romano, and Joan Bard Collins, and Diane Perrin-Gelman. I have not missed any of the ones that are here tonight. And my lovely new author, Kathleen Kyle, aka KT Kyle, who has flown in from Boston. And she's going to talk a little bit about her book. And wow, that's awesome. But thank you all. It's so nice to look out on all these different faces of lovely people who've been part of this journey and who have been so helpful and supportive all the way along these crazy 10 years. And my mother sitting there in her throne. My husband, Ken Dickerson. It's so nice to see all my friends. And I almost forgot a thank you to Centuries and Sleuths bookstore, where we are. Without whom this would not be the success that it is. Ivy and Tracy and John have been so incredibly supportive to us over the years. Everything from all the launch parties we've had here from the beginning with Frances to all the other authors, and they're hosting all the great groups like Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America, where I've been able to schmooze and network and pick up authors like Libby, who I met first at a Sisters in Crime luncheon, I think. And she said, I have this book. And described it to me, and I said, that sounds fantastic. And so Ivy has just created this really incredible space for us to all connect with each other, and he sells a lot of books for us, even better. And he's just been a great friend, as has Tracy, who's just been really great friend to us, and John, of course, too. All of them, this whole thing. So without any further ado, it's your turn now.
So this is my first official launch. I had a couple of sort of unofficial launches in my hometown, Boston, and in Richmond, which is where I grew up. So I guess my question is, do you want to hear about the book, or do you want to hear about the process of writing it? Because I've had people ask me about either.
Yes.
And I guess I'm not sure. Okay. Okay. So many people have said, why is it that, or how is it, I guess, that you found yourself writing a book? And to answer that, I would say that, a few years ago, I found myself in a bit of midlife crisis because, this happens when you hit midlife. You look around. Oops, sorry.
I'm trying to make more space.
I know, that's what I thought.
You look around and you think, what have I done with my life? Where am I going? And what about all of the things that when I was younger I said I wanted to do and then I never got around to doing? And, on the one hand, you could despair, you could buy yourself a red convertible and a 20-year-old boyfriend. And I tried that, but it turns out that that's really expensive, 20-year-old boyfriends. I really found myself priced out. So instead, I sold all of my possessions and I joined the Peace Corps and I moved to Africa, which I did actually do. And while I was there, I had a blog. which was very much not Peace Corps sanctioned, because there was a lot of cursing in it and a lot of failure in it. But a number of people read it and said, hey, you know, Kathleen, we enjoyed that. You have a bit of talent. And I said, thanks, guys. That's very thoughtful of you. And I, finished, and I came back and went back to Boston and went back to the same job that I had before. And once again, found myself wondering, okay, well, what am I doing? Where am I going? And what about all the things that I wanted to do when I was younger? And one of them was, in fact, I want to write a book. And I think to a large degree the reason that I hadn't and the reason that I resisted is because I was afraid, because if you don't try, then you've never failed. And to some degree, never failing is better than failing, but to a somewhat greater degree, never trying is not as great as, trying and failing. So I thought, all right, I'll give it a go. So I tried it, and that's why I'm here. So I did also find that, when I first decided I was going to write something, then I was sort of stuck for a month or two about, like, what am I going to write about? Because I want to write something that's profound and deep and going to win all of the awards, and everybody's going to talk about how great it is, and I could not move past that. I was sort of stuck, like, okay, but Infinite Jest is already written, so honestly, what else is left? And eventually I gave up on that, and I was like, I don't actually want to do that. I'm not sure if I can, but what I do want to do is I want to write something that I would enjoy, a story that I would want to read, or a movie that I would want to watch. And so I wrote something that was very, very self-indulgent, I think, in that it has a main character that I like because she's extremely unremarkable and extremely undervalued and underappreciated. And it has another main character who is, in this case I would say that the male lead is in fact the damsel in distress. He's the one that needs help. He's the one that needs rescuing. And it's the middle-aged, somewhat depressed, somewhat overweight, sort of forgotten about woman who ends up being the hero, being the knight. And that's what I wanted, because that's what I would like to, that's the fantasy that I think I would like to have. Spoiler, if you haven't read it, that's what that is. So I did that. And also I do honestly feel like there's an underrepresentation of women over the age of 35 as the hero in literature and in popular culture in general. People sort of forget about you once you pass a certain age, and I'm like, well, I don't think that, once you hit 40, suddenly there's no potential, suddenly there's nothing of interest about you. I don't think that suddenly you can't be anything other than the doting wife or the, aging mother. I think that there's more to life than that. So that's what I wrote. So, that brings us to now.
So how'd you come up with the idea of the parallel universes?
Honestly, I was driving to work one day and I was looking at reflections off of the cars in front of me, because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the traffic in Boston is terrible. And you spend a great deal of time staring at the chrome bumper of the car in front of you. And, I started thinking, well, what if it's just sort of what if it's sort of a reflection or refraction, I guess, of, the reality that we're living now. And then I started looking it up. I spent a lot of time on Wikipedia, which is probably embarrassing to admit, but there you are. And it is truly an interesting notion. Like, once you get into the whole, quantum physics and multiverse, and, what does that mean about time travel, and what does that mean about the future and potential and all of that stuff. It kind of sucks you in. I knew I wanted to write a thriller. I knew I wanted to write, something, sort of a chase novel of some sort. But I wanted to have something sort of interesting in the background that would captivate an interest. Yes?
Is time travel a theme of your book?
No, not specifically, but the multiverses and the two are, I think, connected.
How did you manage to equate the scientific end of this into the novel? That, because this is something I'm very interested in. The whole theory of quantum physics and time travel and so on. How did you reconcile that with the known facts?
I have a character who sort of does that for me, because I mean, truthfully, I'm not a physicist. So me trying to explain it is going to fall a bit short. I would say that to some degree I sort of glossed over the specifics. I talked about the general idea and, you know, the potential outcomes that could come with, but I didn't really get down into the nitty gritty, the details. But honestly, it's confusing, and I think it would have lost some people. I'm sorry,
No, you're
go
fine.
back to you.
Well, I'm going to backtrack. So for those of us who don't know much about the book, can you tell us like the elevator
general
pitch
yeah.
and the summary of what the book is about?
So the book is basically about, there are two characters. One is, you know, a woman in her 40s, and she is driving home one day after, you know, visiting a family member, and she stops to pick up a hitchhiker. And the hitchhiker is a young man in his 20s who is, in fact, the subject in a laboratory experiment that was looking into parallel universes, and he has been not gifted, he has the ability, because of the experiments they were running, to shift between various different parallel realities. Some things happened in the lab that he was a part of that caused him to flee, and so he's basically running away from the lab. And so the two of them sort of join forces and try to sort of take down the evil, you know, mad scientist that's taken over. So that's that. Yes.
Now that you've had this rousing success, what's your second book going to be about?
I haven't yet decided. For a while I was thinking about a dystopian, like, young adult novel, but I honestly, I'm sort of losing interest in that. I'm not sure that that's really where I want to go. I'm leaning more toward a political thriller at this point. Yes.
So I have read it, and you gotta, these people are really funny, and and the multiverse thing, and I do think you caught something, because the next Spider-Man movie is going to be about multiverse stuff. So I think you can tag on to that thing. And also, I'm not a scientist, but it was both believable and not. I mean, she actually is a scientist. She's got a scientific background. But it wasn't, you know, the idea is the thriller part of it and the sort of race to get away from people or towards people or whatever. So, but they're very funny.
Thank you. I try.
Can I want to read the little description, because one of the challenges with this book, one of the challenges with this book, and you're not supposed to do this in publishing, you're not supposed to cross genres, you're supposed to stay in these very narrow markets. And I'm like, I like this book, I don't care. So, this is how I chose to describe it, just to give you a sense. A riveting techno-thriller / road trip / parallel universes combo with a healthy dollop of romance. Just to give you a sense, and I think it's an extremely successful example of crossing genres. And I don't read science fiction, and I was thinking of it as a thriller when I first published it, and then I realized that it's actually kind of science fiction, which I don't read, but my lovely husband does, and he loved it. And so I think it appeals to people who like science fiction, but also to people who don't like science fiction, because it's really, hey, guys, it's really character driven. I like what one of the reviewers said about Bridget, saying she was aggressively normal. She's just this really great middle-aged woman that you just really rooting for, and she's smart and sassy, and the relationship that develops between her and this young man, totally not a romantic relationship at all, but they inadvertently find themselves together, and go on the run, and it's just a great adventure book. So
Is it set in Chicago?
it's partly set in Chicago, down in Hyde Park, actually.
Oh, okay.
And starts in Vermont and goes to Boston,
Yeah.
South Boston, and then they have their road trip across to Chicago. That's the Evil Lab, isn't it?
Evil Lab.
That's scientist is in Chicago. So the good scientist is also in Chicago.
So our honor is
Yes. So, yes.
So besides your publisher, who obviously read it and, you know, made comments and all this other stuff, did you have a group that you kind of relied on to throw things out to and kind of get feedback, or were you wary of that, or?
I did not. I didn't actually tell anybody that I was writing it until after Emily accepted it. I did have a beta reader, which is, if you go on Goodreads and join one of their mailing lists, you can essentially ask some random person on the internet to read your book and then give you feedback. And in exchange, you usually read their book and give them feedback. And so I had a beta reader. I read his book. It was very nice. And he read mine, and he gave me, I think, some useful bits of information. Because you sort of, you know, when it's your own manuscript, you don't notice things that might be wrong, and then you sort of, everything about this is obviously clear, and then people are like, nothing makes sense. But beyond that, you know, that was it. Yes.
What was the hardest part of writing this book, and what was the easiest?
So I would say the hardest part is sitting down and shutting off the internet, shutting off the TV, and just starting to write. Because as soon as you decide you're going to do something, you find all of the excuses in the world not to do it, you know? And in the end, I had to sort of make a pact to myself that every day I was going to put down 1,000 words before I went to sleep. And so that sort of forced me to do it, which was actually helpful in that, you know, you do get a sense of accomplishment. Even if you're not happy with what you put down, at least you did it. Whereas it's very easy if you don't really force yourself to do it to just not, you know, and just be like, yeah, I'm definitely writing a book. I just haven't done it today, yesterday, day before, but tomorrow it's all going to change. Beyond that, I would say the query letter was extremely difficult to write.
Yeah.
Extremely hard. The easiest bit, honestly, like once you break that barrier and sit down and start to type, if you know what it is that you want to say, it does start to come. Like once you force yourself to do it, it's not as hard as you convince yourself it's going to be.
How hard is plot invention?
How hard is plot?
Plot invention,
Plot invention.
moving from scene to scene.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I started the book, I didn't know how it was going to end. I don't think I came up with the ending until I was about 2/3 of the way through. I just sort of made stuff up. Yeah, so I think plotting is difficult. It probably is a good idea to have an outline and an idea of where you're going before you start. I didn't, but it's probably a good idea. Yes.
So you were writing this book, and you didn't tell anybody you were writing this book. Did people say, "What are you doing?" I mean, it took a little time to do this.
It did, but I have the advantage that I live alone and
Okay.
I work very strange hours. So if I go to bed at 3 in the morning, which I do
Doesn't
routinely, that's normal.
Okay.
I also have the advantage that, like I said, I live alone. I don't have children, so I have a lot more time than, many people have said, how did you find the time? And most of the time my response is, well, you have 3 kids.
Yeah, right.
I have a great deal of time
Right.
by comparison. But yeah,
Tell them what your job is.
I'm an emergency veterinarian. I work outside of Boston.
And And there's
Which
a-
is why I'm up till 3, it's not that I.
Yeah.
It's because I work nights.
And there's a great dog character in John.
There is a dog.
Yeah.
That was very important that I include a dog. And the dog lives, spoiler.
How has your, so you finished this book and you're starting to embark on the second, how has your writing process changed, or how are you thinking now you wanna do things differently now that you've been through it once?
Now I am trying to write an outline. That's probably the biggest, yeah. Yeah, that's probably the biggest. And yes,
I want to ask, how many pages got edited out? Did you start with 500 and end up with 250?
I don't think it changed that much, to be honest. There were a couple of scenes that got cut, and there were a couple of scenes that got added, and there were some things that got sort of tweaked. But I think I started at about 90,000 words, and I think at the end it was about 90,000 words. Is that right? Give or take?
I have to look at my spreadsheet. Yeah, I don't think it changed dramatically, at least after I got it.
Yeah.
Well, we can go eat, drink,